to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, topics, stipulations, first down, played it. Presenting topics from Kanye to Tom Brady. Facts, keys to the city, we unlocking the statements.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. What a sports week it was. And for New York fans, too. It's been an up and down week for New York fans. We're going to start off with baseball. We're talking Joe Judge comments and why his comments are just not just about football, but about life in general and how it got me excited once again about Joe Judge. Gettleman, do we actually trust Gettleman once again as well? And then who's in the better position, the Lions or the Giants currently in the NFL draft? Two teams that have been discussed with a lot of trade rumors of maybe trading back or, like the Detroit Lions, maybe looking for their next future quarterback. And also combine talk as well. And the Washington Redskins, New York Giants. Are they playing their cards right currently, talking about their quarterback situation? But like I said, we are starting off with, once again, baseball. And no, it's not. For the first time in a couple months, we are joined currently by the Joseph Aguiar. And we're not talking about the Houston Astros cheating scandal for the first time in quite some time. Still waiting for that Red Sox report that was supposed to come out last week, but we're still waiting. But no, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the New York Yankees. And it's not for the good. Well, you've heard of this saying, right? Lightning never strikes twice in the same place.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, lightning has struck twice again for the New York Yankees. And we talked very little or briefly about it on Tuesday with the breaking news of Luis Severino, Tommy John, successful Tommy John surgery. And then the next day, well, it's one of the familiar foes, the familiar faces of the New York Yankees. Has he become the bigger version of Jacoby Ellsbury? And that is Giancarlo Stanton. And we're just waiting, like I said, for the Aaron Judge as well. Still hasn't played. And it's literally happening all over again. We just dealt with this 1 year ago. Yes, we won 103 games. But we can't keep using that same excuse. Like, okay, we get it. We won 103 games. We won the AL East with 30-plus players on the IL 39 separate times. And we get that. But we can't keep using it. So this week, Stanton goes down. Severino goes down. Paxton is dealing with injuries. Hicks is out until the All-Star break. Past the All-Star break. Judge has not been actually playing because of his right shoulder. And then you know that a Gary Sanchez injury is going to happen. I don't wish injury or harm upon anybody, but it's just the inevitable. So, Joe, I know everybody wants to talk about, well, this team we're going to be fine. I'm not worried. My level of concern, I'm not worried. This team is going to win the AL East because the AL East is just down right now. But for everybody that wants to say, oh, they dealt with it last year, we can't keep using that, because it's going to be a different year. So when you heard the news, I saw you got the text, we were doing the show, and it made me laugh because it's just like, what the hell? Like, yeah. Really, like, it's just, come on. I'm not mad. It's just like, here we go again. This is really happening.
I think my response was just a swear word, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
This will not. It will not be said, but it was it was the same word. It was just you could just be like, it's just.
Well, I told you. I said we're changing the show.
Oh, I know. I said it. Tuesday we were going to talk about the fight, recap of the fight, and then the Kobe Bryant memorial, and then breaking news right as we were about to start. Thank God we actually finally got news on when we were talking about the show. Because every time we do our show, breaking news seems to happen after our show.
So it was reported by Joel Sherman, who was working down in Tampa, and it literally just came out that Brian Cashman said that Severino will need Tommy John surgery. I'm like,
This can't be happening again.
You can't believe it, because we talked about this last week, and we're hoping, little nagging injuries like a calf strain, Stanton staying, or a little tightness and stiffness in the elbow or shoulder is normal. And we were thinking Severino's, loose bodies wouldn't be that big of a deal. And then you hear the Tommy John surgery, and in these most cases, it's a year, at least a year, minimum a year, unless you're Tanaka, where you can find other sources of rehab. And that's another thing that we haven't talked about, and it hasn't been talked about, but you're just wondering when his elbow is going to snap up. It's just devastating news day after day, and then like one that says, "Oh, this won't happen again." Well, don't hold your beer on that one.
That's why I'm getting like kind of frustrated that Yankee fans are like, "Oh, well, it happened last year. We'll be fine." I get that. We will be. But it's just to see this happening, deja vu, all over again. And Joe, we're a couple weeks away from opening day. And I know there's other big names injured like Chris Sale, but I'm not worried about the other 29 teams. We're New York Yankees fans. We talk New York Yankee sports, and we talk New York Yankee baseball. Go on.
Last season, around this time, the Red Sox having come off a World Series, and they had some injury problems, and I said if they fall behind early, could be trouble. And that's basically what happened. I mean, the Red Sox dug a hole and they could never get out of it. And then towards season's end, I mean, they kind of packed it in and kind of gave up. Mm-hmm. I think for the Yankees, I think when you consider, Paxton's going to be throwing next week, should be back. He's saying he'll be back more like May than June. Herman's back in June.
But let's not rush it.
Sure, we don't want to rush anybody. Everybody right now is talking about Stanton and Severino. I mean, Aaron Judge hasn't picked up a bat yet, and that's got to be concerning. He's got to get his at-bats in. Is he going to be ready for the start of the season? Probably not. You're potentially looking at the Yankees starting outfield not having Judge, Hicks, or Stanton in it, and that is definitely not the blueprint you draw. Are they going to be okay? Sure. You saw Frazier hit a home run almost into the parking lot yesterday.
And he hit a double. I mean, and Duhar looks like he's playing well. He looks like he's going to be playing some outfield.
I love it. Yeah, first play, I like he took charge over Glaber to come in and make a catch in left field.
And that's good because you're starting to prove it.
But I think that helps also because now you don't have to worry about really the competition at third base. And that was one of the main questions going in. Can Duhar,
I don't think it was competition. I just think the Yankees are looking for versatility.
Oh, of course. You can always use versatility.
Listen, if you need to bring in Duhar to third, I think he'll be able to play both.
What did you see? Turn a double play.
Well,
nice double play.
So I have not seen much of any spring training. I've just been following the news of what's been going on. I haven't watched any games because right now, most of the games have not been on television. The first couple ones.
Garrett Cole's game wasn't.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. That was a little unfortunate. The Knicks are on, which
the Knicks
more unfortunate.
But with that being said, when the surgery comes out, I see one of the comments Steve Rizzo said, and it is. Severino's injury is devastating. It's more devastating than the Stanton injury because this lineup has so much depth in it. What this Severino injury does is listen, he didn't pitch for the whole season last year until the last month. We won 103 games with him. But what the Yankees going into the season felt like, and Joe, you have brought it up multiple times on this show, when you brought Garrett Cole in, last year everyone complained that the Yankees had a bad pitching staff, supposedly, right?
Right.
So now because all of a sudden we brought one pitcher and they went from mediocrity to the best pitching staff in baseball based on WAR and all the other analytical numbers. What it did was it just made everyone's value that much higher. Severino, instead of being that ace, now goes into number 2. So now it's like having you move Tanaka to 3 or 4. I mean, think about it. Having a guy like Masahiro Tanaka at number 3 or 4 adds incredible depth to your roster and your pitching staff, and now that makes your bullpen that much stronger. And I was devastated Tuesday, and I'll let you get to your point. I think now, after hearing the news and seeing that and talking to people that are Yankee fans and going, did he pitch last year? Right? No.
I know, but that's why I keep saying we can't.
Stan played 18 games last year.
But having guys, I know, I get that. But having guys like that, when you get into the postseason, to have those,
don't need them. Don't need Stanton.
You can't say don't need them. So what has Stanton done in the playoffs in his career? I know he hasn't.
Well, hold on.
He's been to the playoffs.
To be fair, last
twice.
year the Yankees were 4-0 with Stanton in the lineup and 0-5 with Stanton not in the lineup.
You remember what he did in Game 1 too?
There is something.
Against the Astros.
There is something to Stanton.
What about the other 153 games?
No, listen. Hold on. All right. Look.
I'm just trying to
let me hold on.
be
No.
everyone
Look,
else.
you're making all the points that I've heard and I've been aggravated by this week. So thank you for bringing some of them up.
But that's the point of what I'm supposed to do here. Aggravate people.
Last year, you guys know how I feel about Giancarlo Stanton. I mean, he's banged up. He's hurt. He's not an injury-prone player, in my opinion. I think he's a guy who's had some unfortunate injuries happen to him. I don't think he's injury-prone per se. And then this happened. And it started again, and I started thinking like, oh, come on. Because I think if there's one thing he needed to do was to be in camp healthy.
Yes.
And
this is a big, like, prove it year
limber
for him.
and agile and ready to go. This is this is a little devastating for the Yankees because this is something they were really big time waiting on and expecting to be able to pair these two twin towers together. And now they're both out of the lineup.
They changed their training staff. They brought in one of the best guys in baseball. So you can't use that excuse as what we did last year. Hey, let's blame it on the training staff. What does kind of bring notice, these are guys that Cashman has traded for now. He traded for a guy like Paxton. He traded for a guy like Stanton.
He traded for Hicks.
He traded for Hicks, and he paid these guys. Now, we don't look at the Severino deal that bad. 4 years, $40 million. We actually thought
at the time we were like, we loved it.
We talked
loved
like,
it.
wow, that's a cheap deal. But and you explain, listen, get ahead of the curve, pay him before the arbitration years, get it, and then you can hit the free agent. And you tell a guy that hasn't made anything, here's $40 million right off the bat. We're going to pay you a little bit now, prove commodity, and then we'll give you the big deal.
But here's my thing about this whole injury thing. We're not talking about minor leaguers or second or third stringers.
We wouldn't be talking about it. It wouldn't be news.
I know, but
though.
the reason why it's such a and the list goes on is it's Paxton, it's Hicks, it's Judge, it's Stanton, it's Severino. These are all guys that are that we were hoping would be major contributors to a championship. We were all expecting.
We don't expect these injuries in February. We expect them in the middle of June and August when they played a constant 5 out of 7 days.
Well, look,
and they're on.
Here's the good news. I mean, outside of Severino, everybody else will be back.
Yeah,
everybody else will be back and healthy.
Hermano
at
missed
some
61
point.
games, and Hermano missed 61 games.
And that's another thing. The pitching rotation and I bring it back up for everybody that wants to still complain about the Garrett Cole contract. Just know that he's on your team and not on anywhere else.
So you're slotting, I suppose, Cole, Tanaka 2, which again, it's a different rotation.
You have to.
Tanaka 4 was amazing. 3 was like, all right, 2?
You thought 4 with Tanaka is like a dream.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's an amazing thing. Now you got Hap
or
Montgomery 3.
4 is
the other guy's the other one. And again, I think you're looking at probably
Sessa,
King.
You'll definitely. I don't think Michael King. I don't think what's his face, Clark Schmidt. I don't think he's in play yet. I don't think Debbie Garcia.
Green will be a possibility.
I don't think you're going to see any of those 3 guys. At least not until mid-season, if at all, this year. Any of those 3. And if anybody, I think, has a real chance to make the roster, it would be Michael King. I would assume Jonathan Loaizaga, if they want to name a 5th starter, I think would be the guy. But I think at least to start, you're probably just going to Chad Green open, go bullpen days, throw Sess in there a little bit.
So Garcia is pitching tonight. I'm looking at that stuff right over your head right now. Garcia is going to pitch his first Grapefruit League tonight against the Braves. I didn't realize this. Clark Schmidt is actually their top-rated prospect in the system. He's raw. Maybe, and Joe, you follow this because you do your own personal Yankee podcast.
You can follow the roll call as well.
It's called the roll call
at Clovercrest Media.
Why do we talk so much about Debbie Garcia more than this guy Clark Schmidt if he's the top prospect? And I feel like you have a better understanding.
Well, last year, really, by and large, Debbie Garcia was their top guy. And he did well at single A. Debbie was outstanding. Got to double A. Got a little more competitive. The ERA was in the 3.3 area. It wasn't bad. Then he got to the AAA
setback,
and it was he's a kid, and it was a different speed of the game. He was also tired. A little bit of fatigue, I think, started working for him. Had an ERA over 5 at AAA. Well, that's why he's definitely. They want him to get some more seasoning. He'll probably start the year at AA, not even AAA. Meanwhile, Clark Schmidt kind of came out of nowhere. Well, I'm going to say came out of nowhere being a top pick. That's not true, but he just was solid. And what you're seeing out of him is a guy who knows how to pitch. Problem is, he's got 16 innings at Double-A, and the Yankees never skip over Triple-A to bring a guy up. It just never happens. So I don't see him being a possibility at all. But he did have a great year. Michael King was hurt most of last year. If this was last camp that we were going to before his injury, I would have told you, based on performance and skill set, that I think Michael King would be your top guy. And I think by the time spring is over, I think he may separate himself from that young pack, at least in terms of first guy called up. If you, God forbid, Cole gets hurt or has to miss a start. I got to say it because it's a possibility. And it would be a big problem.
Or Tanaka.
I think if either of those guys, or God forbid both of those guys, then I think you do have a chance of seeing maybe Clark Schmidt and Michael King. I think Debbie Garcia needs a little bit more seasoning.
Hold on. I'll put it this way. I think that's when the Yankees get seriously desperate and make.
That's what I'm saying too. I don't think those guys. You'll see. And those
I don't think they would go after a DeGrom or Syndergaard like that. But I think they go of a level of a Syndergaard, Paxton, a guy that can fill a role.
If they ever get to that point where it's Tanaka goes down, or just one of them goes down, then the Yankees are trading before any of those guys are coming up. They're looking at trade possibilities.
Here's the problem.
Ray, do they go after Kluber?
But here's the problem. How often do you see April-May trades?
Oh, no, never.
I mean,
unless a team is very, very desperate, it seems.
So you might think about a trade we saw last year, just before opening day, or maybe a couple days after, the Mike Tauchman trade. Oh. Right? That was, we have an extra bullpen piece. You have an extra outfield. And it was a pretty even swap. Yeah. Easy to make. Both guys were expendable.
No major impact. Yeah.
No big impact.
Yeah. And it worked out well for the Yankees.
It's, again, and knock on wood, and I'm not wishing this, but if Cole were to miss a couple of starts, you're not making a trade to cover those couple of starts anyway. Say Tanaka's arm finally goes and you do have a rotation spot you got to fill in.
It'd have to be a guy out for the year, something major.
Absolutely. Yeah. But my thought is at least in the short term, I mean, you're picking up the phone. Even if you wanted to get somebody like a Robbie Ray, you're going to end up overpaying for a Robbie Ray in May.
Because and
then you have to ask yourself, is it worth it long term?
Because
to make a move like that to burn a prospect.
Because these teams, like you just said with Robbie Ray, these teams will say, the Yankees are desperate. So, hey, you want Robbie Ray. What do you want to do?
Sure, it'll cost you Clark Schmidt. You want to make that move, and nobody does.
One of those young
or Florial or somebody.
Or Debbie Garcia. That's all I'm trying to say.
Well, I don't think they'll trade Debbie Garcia, and
you never know.
But see, again, in my opinion, I think if you were to get into a situation where, say, Cole or Tanaka was to be lost for the season tomorrow, and I'm sure Cashman's on the phone immediately, but I think in the very initial stages, I think you would be foolish not to, at least by the time spring is over, to give any one of those three young guys a look, and if they pitch well enough, it would be something you'd have to consider. I'd like to not see any of the three of them this year.
No. Here's my thing that I've been, and this is probably I know this is going to get your blood boiling, and I said it to Ted the other night as I was driving to work. I'm sorry, I'm not paying Aaron Judge $200 million. Not.
You want to trade him to the Dodgers?
No, not even trade him, Joe.
Next year?
Joe, no trade, but I'm not paying him.
You're going to let him walk?
No.
Are you insane?
No. I'm not letting him walk.
What are you paying him? 150? 110?
I'm not giving him 200. I'm not giving him 200 million. He can't, Joe. We've seen the past couple years, and when he's on the field, he's great. Don't get me wrong, but your greatest asset is being available. Herm Edwards said it back in the day. You have to play on the field. I don't care.
Herm Edwards also plays a sport with 16 games.
I know that, but
it's a little more important in that sport.
But you're going to pay him $200 million knowing that the guy cannot stay healthy.
What do you mean not stay healthy?
He hasn't been healthy since he had that one magical year. I know he's had 25-plus home runs the past 2 years. I get that. But when you're supposed to be one of the top 10 players in the league, that money, you should be getting paid that money, right?
No, you're not wrong.
Listen, when he is on the field,
he's great.
He's one of the three best right fielders in the game.
I'm not saying anything
Probably
bad about Judge,
Bellinger and Betts.
but me personally, with him coming on age of almost 30 years old as well, and how long are you going to give him the years, knowing what you just gave Hicks and Severino, total of 11 years, $110 million, and both of them have barely played since the contract. I'm not willing to give out $200 million to him.
All right. First and foremost, he's 27 years old. Aaron Judge, April 26th.
When's his next contract? So he'll be 28.
He will be 28 years old come April.
So by next year, he'll be looking possibly for a contract.
No, they have arbitration 3 coming up.
He does have arbitration 3. He becomes an actual free agent in 2023.
So
you got time.
That's 31.
But he's getting 8.5 this year. You know what he's going to get next year? Like $20 million. And then the year after that will be like $30 million.
So
I understand that. The Yankees had best give him a contract in this offseason that takes you through.
Now, what are you willing to give him?
That takes you through ages 29, say to 35. I could give him a 6-year contract at 180.
So I'm gonna tell you. So I'm gonna tell you how I'm gonna play this.
Oh,
if I'm
man, $30 million
missed
a year?
60 games last year, missed 50 the year before, played 155.
I'll do the 150
in his magical season.
I'm not doing any of that.
I think it's overblown.
You just said he's a free agent in 2023.
Yeah,
fine. By then, go let someone else pay you the 10 years. I'm just gonna do the franchise tag like I would do in football. The franchise arbitration this year, arbitration next year, arbitration the following year, and at 31, see you later.
But okay, hold on. What if at 31, let's say Aaron Judge hits 310 with 58 home runs and 170 RBI? You're going to let him walk?
Then I'll pay him for what he should be worth then. But I'm going to see.
No, then you're going to have to pay him like $40 million a year.
See you later then. 5 years, $200 million then.
The fans would never tolerate think about how pissed people were about Robbie Cano.
He's a bum. Yes. So go be the Seattle Mariners, go be the Los Angeles Angels, go pay a guy who's going to be over 32 years old, 10 years, because that's what he's going to want. Go pay him 10 years. Go pay him the A-Rod contract, and by the time he's 36, his body's crumbling, and you're stuck with 5 extra years on your deal. Good luck. I'm going to pay him the franchise tag for the next 3 years. And here's the thing. Joe, you just said, well, what if he hits 310? Well, what if the next 2 to 3 years, he misses 50 games each year for the next 3 years?
What's more likely?
Missing 50 games.
Why do you say that?
Because the last 3 seasons, he's done it 2 out of 3 times. That's 67%.
And he's already coming into this year.
The numbers play into my favor.
And he's coming in this year.
Now,
with an injury.
Here's the thing, Joe. I agree with you. If he stays healthy this year and he stays healthy the next year before he hits that thing, then you jump on a deal before he hits 31. Then you jump on and say, here, give him the 7 years, 210. Boom. That's $30 million a year. By the time he's done with it, he's 37. You know you're probably going to eat the last year, like the Garrett Cole, which we've talked about, but that's fine. Ooh. You understand a guy at that value is worth it because you're not paying for the back 2 years, you're paying for the first 5. And that's how you got to look at it. But if he's going to be missing 50 games the next 2 years, okay, then I'll give him what I think he's worth. It's kind of like the Jerry Jones and Dak Prescott. And we're going to talk about that eventually. But he thinks he's worth the 35 to 40 million. The owner's the one that writes the check. He's got to figure out what his value is to the team. Now, there's no salary cap in baseball.
I think
Brian Cashman has to be smart.
Judge's value to the Yankees is at the top of the list.
Is he? Because they won all these games last year without him?
He was there the whole time on the bench.
But no,
a leader of this team, likely the next captain of this team, the face of baseball,
likely not
the face of the franchise, even with some competition from Gleyber.
I think you take last year. Gleyber will eventually be because he's the younger, better version, and he plays the ideal position.
Will be the
Aaron Judge has that big face.
I know, and he's got
that big gap. And the big gap,
20 feet tall. Yeah, he's got the Michael Strahan gap. Gleyber Torres doesn't even speak English.
I'm not.
I'm just saying.
I think you're having.
I'm just saying. It's hard to be the face of the franchise if you don't speak English. He's a great player. Again, what he did year 1 to year 2 is incredible and tells me that it's only going to get better.
Could it be
Gleyber.
Cole if he lives up to the expectations?
Well, I think there's always that not a real Yankee because you played somewhere else, kind of a weirdo thing. But
I'm falsely hoping that Judge is going to do all that and be amazing. I want to see him on the field because I know what he can do when he's on the field. He's great, but he's not on the field.
It's certainly wishful thinking. This is a guy who, if you research his minor league career, you wonder why he came up so late. He went to college too, and graduated from college, which is awfully great. But he had a lot of injuries in the minor leagues as well, and missed parts of seasons all throughout his minor league career. So the Yankees have always known what he is. He bounces back pretty quick from injuries, and he plays hurt. And even when he plays hurt, he's a lot better than about 85% of the rest of the league.
I would put him still in the top 5.
Probably 90%.
Oh, yeah, because there's probably...
He's the third best right fielder in the league behind Bellinger and Betts.
What about Yelich?
What about him?
I mean, come on. Yelich, I would say Judge is probably the 4th best.
Judge might be a better outfielder defensively than Yelich. He plays a much better outfielder.
I would put
strong. He's got a stronger arm.
He's got a better arm, and he makes better plays.
Yes, Yelich might be the better hitter, but he's also on the field a lot more.
See, for me, I'll pay a guy like Mookie like 200, 220. I'm not paying a guy like Aaron Judge. You know what I mean. That's just me. I'm not going $400 million because no player in the world should deserve $400 million.
When you start Mookie Betts, you better start talking at least 3. Start with the 3 and work your way.
Whatever. I know what Mookie Betts does. I know what Aaron Judge does.
So would you rather see the Yankees go at this offseason and sign Mookie Betts to a $400 million deal?
No.
And see if you could package Stanton and Judge to the Dodgers? I bet you they'd take them both. They would.
Yeah, they probably would.
They would. They totally would.
I would not do that. I'm not paying any player $400 million. Not even Mike Trout. I'm not paying $400 million. No professional athlete should be getting paid $400 million.
Here's the thing.
There's only 3 athletes.
Trevor, hold on. You could look at me and you could be like, I am not paying $25,000 for a brand new car. Okay. You go find one that's not $25,000 that's brand new. And what is it? A Kia?
Hey.
Is that what you wanted? A Kia? No offense to the Kia people.
A Beetle.
You know what I mean? You're paying what market value's worth. And we see right now, I mean, it's been ever since they cracked the 30 million mark, it's like 31, 32, 32.5, 33, 35, 36, 36 and a half.
In the past.
The numbers, they're trying to keep that number from where they don't want $40 million a year to become a thing.
No, I hear it.
And they've been really trying to keep that, everyone's trying to top everyone's contract by like 100,000. I mean, they don't want this thing to blow up, and you're right.
It's
but
no
right
different
now,
than football.
This is what we said about Garrett Cole. Market value dictated 9 years right off the bat. Basically, Scott Boras said to the teams, he wants 9 years. Who's out for 9 years? And anybody who said they were out of the sweepstakes. Who's in for 9? Couple of teams. Who is it? He wants $324 million. We're in. You're out. Deal. That's how you determine market value.
Of course.
There's got to be again. Manny Machado agreeing to go to the I almost called them the Chargers.
It's okay.
Go to the Padres last year.
City thing.
Was a bit of a surprise.
But it ultimately was a money thing for him.
Yeah.
It had to be because he was the only team offering.
But what about Harper?
The high dollars and cents he wanted.
Was Harper the same thing then, probably?
But here's the difference.
Ended up in a better place.
But here's the thing. Yes, exactly. Because when we look at the Phillies, they are a team more so built to go toward a World Series, where the Padres eventually might be
very young.
But it's going to take much more time because the Dodgers are the front runner, head and shoulders above everyone else.
What should the Yankees do with Giancarlo Stanton after this season?
Can't do nothing with him. He's got a player option. He's going to opt right back into it. And I know you asked Joe the question.
You just have to hope. Again, you're
gonna have to live with the contract.
He missed a year. He played 158 games his first season in New York.
And he was the most important player because that was the time we were dealing with big injuries as well.
Yeah, the Judge was a big
Aaron Judge was out. We dealt with big injuries that year.
I know he missed a lot of the season. It's frustrating. He certainly, you can say what you want about him and his postseason performance. When he was in the lineup, they won the games. When he wasn't, they lost. It's simple as that.
You remember game 1, he hit a home run.
Listen, Giancarlo Stanton's the kind of guy, though, where he just needs to be in the lineup to have an effect on the lineup.
All right, so here's his career right above your head. I pulled it up so you guys
His
both
presence alone.
So every time he's missed time. So first year, 2010, he played 100 games. Then he played 150, 123, 116, 145, 74. But I believe that was the year he got hit in the face.
By the way, the 123, he was MVP.
That's like 59 home runs. No, 168. He played 168. Yeah.
Look in 12.
2012?
123 games, 37-86. Let's say MV. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I misread that.
All-Star game MVP.
All-Star, yeah.
That's
all right.
a big difference.
But you look at the numbers.
I misread that.
But you look at the numbers.
Just a little bit.
It's like, wait, he wasn't the 2012 MVP, was he?
Only that year in Miami, the last year where he went wild, he played 159 and 150. Other than that,
But
every
no,
year.
you're talking 145, 74, 119. So, 2015 was the shot in the face.
Yep.
Yes. So I got a question for you then.
So
as
he
well.
has
What's his
missed
stand?
time.
He hasn't missed a ton of time, and I don't think it's fair to call him injury prone.
Is he a liability or an asset? Now, I know this could be it's easy to say a liability because he's been injured. But like Joe just said, and when he's on the field, he's an asset to the team. So
yes.
Which side are you picking more, though? Are you picking that he's the asset side when he's on the field, or when he's not playing, he's a liability?
If he doesn't get into more than 80 games this year, 81, so let's go halfway.
Let's go half.
Then it's a problem. If he misses 30, 35 games,
You have no issue with it.
that's fine.
Yeah.
I expect Sanchez will miss that many. I expect Judge may miss that many. Here's the thing. When that happens in Milwaukee and Christian Yelich is out, that team's screwed. That team doesn't have any other really good options.
They have some good players, but when you take an MVP player like him off,
Absolutely.
your team goes down.
The Yankees are fortunate to have depth and resources and a really good GM who has been able to go out and find, Cameron Maybins and guys like that.
Topman, Gio Urshela having a big year last year.
Does that headline right there get you? I've seen that posted on Twitter. Is he the potential Jacoby Ellsbury situation? I'm just asking.
You have to almost
159 games his last year in Miami, 158 his first year in New York, 18 last year because of obviously all the injuries. This season hasn't even started yet.
And he's going to miss some time.
Well, we don't know.
I think he's going to be out more than a couple weeks.
We don't know
This
yet.
is what I worry about right here. This thing right here. Since he's been the last couple of years, bicep, left strain, left shoulder, left calf, right PCL,
Stop
right
lifting.
squad.
I said that last night.
These guys.
I said that last night, man.
Aaron Hicks. He's a big guy. He's a big jack guy.
You're going to have to change his strategy.
Since Severino came back last year, I remember you said, "Oh, he looks big. He looks a lot more jacked." What has happened since? He's been dealing with injury. Stanton, he's a monster.
Well,
you already see it.
You know what
These guys, I don't
and his
understand
injuries are
it.
only going to go up once he gets older because
I don't understand it.
Father time always wins.
You know what the best part about not working out is? You never strain muscles.
So Joe's telling everyone he doesn't work
I'm
out.
very limber and I have a good swing.
Well, you know what we do.
Are you a Hall of Famer in the wiffle ball league?
Pretty much.
So
Are
we
you?
Legendary
Have
status.
you put yourself or have your peers?
They have. I've been voted to the All-Star team 2 years in a row.
You have an all-star team?
There's an All-Star team.
So we joke about this.
As a pitcher or a hitter? Hold on. As a
Oh,
pitcher.
my God.
I'm curious.
Both years, I've been selected as both a hitter and as a pitcher.
What is there?
What are you, Ohtani?
I pretty much am.
What is there? 3 people in the league?
How many people are league?
There's about 70 people in the league.
How do they pick you?
I know. Listen.
Are you one of the commissioner? Is the league rigged?
Fair enough. I did recently get elected co-commissioner.
There it is.
Here's the thing.
But only because of my
He's the perfect-
legendary status.
He's the perfect backyard player.
He's Pablo. What? Remember back in the day that video game you used to play backyard baseball with the kids?
Oh my God!
And Pablo, are you Pablo?
I'm Pablo.
The all-around player.
The best player in the league.
You know what we joke about? We joke about this at work. So my coworker Paulie Standish, pork chop. I remember one last year when he was like, "Oh, Tauchman got hurt." He's like, "We're done. And we're like, "Really?" Can you imagine a Yankee fan saying Mike Tauchman's hurt and we're screwed? It was crazy to think about
goodness.
that. But
well, how about the people that were like, well, if Tauchman comes back and Stanton comes back, who's going to be on the roster?
And we talked about this.
Yeah, Stanton's staying
Joe,
on.
you got crazy.
What? What do you mean who? The guy that makes like $600K or the guy that makes like 32? Because it's going to be that guy every time. Every time.
And to think about like guys now, I know the game is totally different. Someone's gonna be like, Ted, it's a different game. But to think about guys like Babe Ruth and who like drank beers, ate hot dogs and burgers.
Mickey Mantle was like a walking crutch.
Like these guys who didn't lift and like just played the game and like drink coffee and booze before the game and like did everything that you were not
many
supposed
muscular
to do,
guys
and then
nowadays.
played 162 games, right?
You realize in 1972, Roger Bannister ran the 4-minute mile and was the first person to do it. Did you know this?
No.
The first man in human history to run a 4-minute mile.
That's fast.
Yeah,
And
that's
now,
a minute per. Yeah.
Yeah. My daughter did that in gym class last week. They ran a 4-minute mile. I mean, it's.
Your daughter ran a 4-minute
Everybody
mile?
does it. Anybody
What do you
that.
mean everybody
All you have to
does
do
it?
is run hard for
I
a
can't run
mile
a
and you could do it in under 4 minutes. It's insane.
Joe, I'll be passed out.
You probably would be.
No one's running 4 minutes.
Guess up. My point is.
I know none of us are.
I'm joking. It's not, but it's. People regularly break the 4-minute mile like it's nobody's business. It just happens. If you look at the 100-meter dash, you know, when Jesse Owens, right? In Berlin.
He knows.
That wasn't right for a minute.
He knows Roger
We are
Bannister.
in Black
He doesn't
History
know-
Month.
he
Let's
doesn't know
get the
Jeffrey-
names right.
Yeah, Jeffrey Owens doesn't know.
Jesse
Owens.
If you look at Jesse Owens' world record breaking, he showed the Nazis, whatever. If you look at that time now, it's laughable.
Yeah.
It's laughable. You're like, oh, that won it? Now, everybody, if you can't beat what he did in the 36 Olympics, you're not even qualifying for the team.
You're not even asking.
That's my point. Like, it's, again, how old are you, Ted?
32.
30. See, you're still.
So who are you going to bring up?
I was going to bring up Steve Kemp. A baseball player from the 70s into the early 80s. Your dad and those guys know what I'm talking about.
What team did he play for?
He played for the Tigers, the White Sox. He spent a little time with the Yankees. There was a lot of guys like this in baseball back in the day.
I wish Dad was tuned in. He'd probably start writing some.
And Steve Kemp just jumps right to mind. Claudel Washington. These guys that hit like 13 homers, had 70 RBI, hit about 260, played great defense. And those guys were like all-stars. And now that guy is like a chump. That's like your bench guy. 17 home runs. Yeah. You wouldn't have a starting left fielder that only hits 18 home runs.
For goodness sake, you're seeing leadoff guys hitting 25, 30 home runs now.
Well, you're seeing you're also seeing guys like Chris Bryant be leadoff hitters.
Yes.
You're seeing, again, I don't know why the Yankees, I know they've talked about it. We've seen it once or twice with Judge. I mean,
he's got a great eye.
Can you imagine being a rookie? You just get called up from Double-A. You're starting for the Oakland A's at Yankee Stadium. And the first thing you see is 6'7", 285 standing there all up on that plate with all the on-base percentage in the world. Imagine what that would be like.
I wouldn't.
No, that'd be terrible.
Because the old day was like a 5'9", 175-pound guy who could hit the ball.
Yeah.
Who could just slap the ball and speed.
He might bunt. I remember Ricky Henderson, when Ricky Henderson, became like a 25, 28 home run guy all of a sudden. And we were like, oh, my God.
But is that good?
He's fast. He can steal bases and hit home runs.
I'm actually a fan of this, of how baseball has transitioned to that.
Well, it should.
Well.
It has to.
And getting like you said, Aaron Judge, Chris Bryant, and stuff like that. My final thing that I want to ask, level of concern for the New York Yankees on a scale of 1 to 10, currently right now with all the players out going into the season, what's the scale rank?
For me right now, my concern is at about a 3.
So lower than mine.
Severino is the biggest concern.
You would think he's the
and
biggest
it's not
concern?
even a concern. Well,
I think Judge is the biggest concern.
Filling the void again, because we talked about it before. You mentioned it earlier. When you added Cole and pushed everybody back a spot, that rotation looked amazing on
like a
paper.
fantasy team.
And now suddenly the depth of it is getting. And look, Jordan Montgomery is a good pitcher. I think Happ is due for a nice bounce back kind of year.
Jordan Montgomery is going to be like coming back too. Everybody's like, oh, you got him coming back.
Well, that's what spring.
He hasn't pitched in. I mean, we haven't seen him pitch a regular season game in almost 2 years.
How many pitchers have you seen come back from Tommy John recently and be total failures?
Off the top of my
not many. I mean, I feel like most of these guys are coming back. It might take them a year to look at Michael Pineda.
Oh yeah, Pineda.
I mean, he's looked fantastic, and had he not gotten suspended for PEDs,
he came back. He was good for the Red Sox. That's all that mattered when it needed
Carl
to be.
Pavano. Or Nathan Eovaldi.
Nathan Eovaldi.
Oh my
Carl
God.
Pavano is an ex-Yankee that
I was like,
that's
wait.
one of the worst.
I was like, is Ted trying to throw my point in my face with Pavano? You meant Eovaldi. Absolutely. Another guy who came
but
back.
I could have said Pavano too.
You could have. But not for nothing. Eovaldi throws harder than he did before the Tommy John, and he threw hard then. Yeah. So, listen, Montgomery's a soft tosser. Speed's not his problem, and it's not going to affect him. It's him getting the mechanics back in sync. I think he's going to be fine. There's no reason
to affect Sevy.
There's no reason to think it wouldn't. No, again, I got a feeling. I mean, you're talking about a kid who's going to be 25 years old. I think he's going to bounce back from a surgery, go through a rehab. He's got.
Let me look him up.
You know, again, not for nothing, but he pitched 20 innings last year, and he's going to pitch 0 innings this year. And so he goes into camp next year. Guys, guess what? He's got a surgically repaired arm that's got 20 innings on it over the last 2 years. How's he going to do?
He's great. He's 26.
He is 26. Yeah. He's going to come back guns blazing.
You hope.
Again, unless look who's doing the surgery. He's going to come back fine. The surgery's going to be a success. He's going to hit the rehab thing. And as long as he tells them when he ain't feeling right, which is a problem, you know, and it's something.
He didn't say nothing last year,
right,
Joe?
That's what makes me. It's like these guys went the whole offseason.
But slow down. See, this is where the problem runs into. We saw this last year. Judge was playing and was hurt, and everybody was bitching that he wasn't hitting home runs left, right, and sideways. And then at the same time criticizing Giancarlo Stanton for not playing hurt. And now you got a situation where you got a pitcher that's hurt, and it's easy to be frustrated with him, or it's easy to look at it and be like, God, you know what? Next year, boy, this guy's going to come back with a really fresh arm.
Well, that's because you can't make everyone happy.
Right. People are going to be upset no matter what. I know people want to freak out about the rotation. They did all last year right up to the American League Championship Series. And not for nothing, it would have been Severino in Game 7 had the Yankees won Game 6. Imagine that.
Imagine that. If
you might have seen his arm blow out that night.
Imagine if some guy, Jose Altuve, didn't hit a home run. Probably. Go ahead. What's your
imagine if Severino had to pitch Game 7 that night? Who knows what would have happened with the status of that injury? Well, he could have really blown it out right there on the mound.
It means that they would have been using that bullpen a lot.
Maybe we should thank Altuve for not having to have a pitch because maybe his career could have been even worse. Could have been in a worse position. I am not
thanking Jose Altuve ever.
You may want to. He literally may have saved.
Both of you settle down.
Listen, if Severino comes back next year and wins 20, I will lower my hatred of Altuve one full notch.
Oh, I thought you were going to buy him a chicken parm sub.
Yeah, maybe.
You know. One more final thing. You know how you just said we see like leadoffs now. We don't really see a lot of 20-game winners now anymore in baseball. Not really. And it's
because they don't pitch 6 innings no more.
Yeah, and that's why. Yeah.
Garrett Cole did it last year.
Yeah, and so did Verlander, right?
Verlander had 19.
Oh yes, 19.
We saw a couple 20-game winners the year before. It'll be interesting to see because
Severino was on pace the year before that for 20 games, and then he struggled.
Herman would have gotten to 20. Yeah, he was at 18 and 4.
18 and 4.
Oh yeah, dude, he was.
You asked him a question. What's 5 right now? Only because it's middle of the pack. We've gone through this before. We've seen it happen. Now, to think the same guys are going to be able to produce at that same level, is DJ LeMahieu going to produce at that same level last year? We don't have that guarantee. I don't think that's a realistic DJ LeMahieu.
I don't either.
I think take a couple numbers back, take 5 home runs.
I think DJ.
No, it's realistic.
I think 27 home runs was more a product of the juiced ball. I think he's back
22, 20.
15 to 22
what about
was
Gardner?
what I had in my head.
He hits another 20.
He gets to maybe 20. He hits 18 to 22.
How does Gio play full time? There's a lot of questions.
On Andujar.
Gio I feel good about.
But this team did win 103 games with all the injuries last year. With Sanchez on the DL twice. With Judge on the DL. With Stan missing 18 games.
I think it's time for Sanchez to have a that year we're hoping for. Like his rookie year, he came in and just destroyed the ball.
Well, let me ask you something.
We're hoping for Sanchez to be that.
Let me ask you something, and we'll finish this up. Would you rather Sanchez hit 280... He hit bombs. He hits 35, 40 homers, 120 RBI, stays healthy for the most part. Yeah. Or Maybe he has a dippity-do in the batting average. Maybe it's 240 again. Maybe only 25 homers, and he plays 140 games. How about this? But the catching's spectacular. The framing's great. The blocking's great. The throwing the runners out. What would you rather see from Gary Sanchez?
I want a more
First choice. Because I was pleased with his defense last year.
Thank you. Okay.
I would say
I want the numbers at the batting.
You want the slugger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want the slugger, but I want the more complete too. And I saw him him improve to that last year.
Because the game has changed. And the reason why I say that is because ability to run and stealing in baseball is not as important as it was 15, 20 years ago. Okay? To get to see a guy have 50 steals in a season is incredible now. That was common knowledge in the 90s and 80s and everything. Everyone did that. That's why Ricky Henderson's steals numbers will never be touched ever again. It's one of those infamous numbers that will never be touched because the way the game is played. The importance of stealing is not as important. And as we've seen, especially with Mike Trout, the injury concern of him sliding into a base, spraining a finger, an ankle injury, a knee, anything that could happen to stealing is more risk, and it's not valued for a guy at that level.
It's just amazing that Cal Ripken Jr. played for that many years and never got hurt.
Different game.
It's not a different game. It's the exact same game.
Yeah.
It's run at the same speed in the same way.
Yes.
The difference is that the guys don't make $2 million a year anymore. They make 35.
Yep.
And it's the difference between, if you have a $2 million piece of art, you're going to put it on your wall. If it's $35 million, it's going to be in a museum.
It's going to be in the vault.
If it was a $2 million vote,
you're not going to take
trash.
You're not going to take the same chances. You're not going to leave that painting in a room that has air in it that isn't controlled.
If it's a $2 million painting, I'm selling it. I want money.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
It's also a load management thing. The analytics now say they don't want you playing 162 games.
Yeah, I know.
It's just like basketball.
No, I know.
I was just going to bring that up. I mean, I hear they're complaining. I guess the T-Wolves got in trouble for
resting.
Resting
Russell. $25,000.
Can you imagine that? As if anybody ever attended a basketball game to see D'Angelo Russell play.
Next.
I'm saying, it ain't LeBron. It wasn't LeBron sitting.
No, I know.
I think you'd be all right missing D'Angelo Russell. But anyway, I think the Yankees are going to be just fine.
I would say 4 or 5 too. I'm not really
Ask
concerned.
me again in a month how I feel.
We'll see.
Think it's going to get worse or better.
You know that the Judge injury, we got to see how that and the usual Sanchez injury comes up. So, just saying. As always, Joe, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
They should start eating more chicken parm subs and stop lifting.
That's where it's at.
That's it. Start eating Italian food, pasta, because guess what? You won't get injured anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the host of the roll call, the Joseph Aguiar. As always, thank you, Joe. We'll be right back. We're talking New York Giant football. Joe Judge's comments, I love them. I know some people are a little,
Yeah. Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.